guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Today we're back here with the Internet Historian, and today, well, here comes part 3 of the Fancy series. So we did the first main channel video, then the second, and now here we are with wine. Yeah, so the next one's going to be on the second channel. I'll keep an eye on that, but for now, let's look more about wine. Learn more about wine anyway. So be sure to like, subscribe for more. Hope you enjoy. Here we go. Let's begin. Don't worry, wait a little amount of time this time. See?
Come here, little fella. I want to tell you a secret.
You're not going to break my neck, are you?
I'm just like you.
Except deadlier.
We're both down here in the dirt. Mine just happens to be imported. You are fighting in traffic, and I am fighting charges of trafficking. We're so similar.
No,
You're
not.
working a 9-to-5 job, and I am having to look at that.
Bro.
We're both going through it. So don't hate me. I'm not the problem. It's the wine snobs. They're the ones that look down on you. And frankly, I don't blame them. No, he's learning. Listen, let me pull you up by your bootstraps. What if I made you my little pygmalion? That's a reference that you wouldn't get. You know what? Perhaps I shall make a series of videos that will give you some sort of clue about fancy things. Yes, that's what I'll do. Something to give you just enough information to bluff your way through a fancy dinner.
Did you know that Da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa?
Somebody had to hold open the gates for the barbarians. Why not me? So let's do it. Let's look at
Why? There you
wine. The Mountain Dew of upper society. With wine, there is only one rule.
Don't check it.
Kill or be killed.
What?
And if you want to survive the night, here are 6 things you should know about wine. To you muggles, the words on these bottles must seem like a mystery.
Pie not no ire?
But us landlords, we, the pink Himalayan salt of the earth, we know what they mean. They are grape names. Look upon this grapevine. It makes grape berries. Now, there are many different species of grape berry. And whatever the berry species is will determine the type of wine. This is Chardonnay, so it will make Chardonnay.
wine.
Merlot grapes, they make Merlot wine.
It's a blend.
Grape names are mostly French. Gross. But for example, in English, Pinot Noir means black pine, because it kinda looks like a black pine cone, if you squint. Here's some of the other names. You can pause it. I'm busy. Wine grapes are not like the kind you get at the supermarket. Those are table grapes. You can think of it kind of like the difference between cooking chocolate and regular chocolate. You can eat them,
But you're going to regret
but
that.
they're overly sugary and kind of full of seeds and just not as nice to snack on. So the grape type is the main word on the bottle, but sometimes there are other words as well. For example, this Bourgogne. What the hell is a Chablis? It's all
Chablis?
regions. Allow me to explain through the medium of song. There's Chianti and Piedmont, also there's Burgundy. Don't forget Chablis Bordeaux. This one's from Italy, this one's from Italy, this one's from France, this one's from France, this one's from France, this one's from France. They're all from France. We're Italy.
Yeah, it's a lot of French in
Look,
Italy.
the general rule is, if you see a term you don't understand, it's probably just the French or the Italians being all la-dee-da about their
La-dee-da.
particular region. All right, let's move on to price. Come on, I know a place.
You'd be surprised. There are some here in America, though I think they're a lot cheaper. I think it depends on, like, also with wine, I think it depends on how much you age them. Like, you know, they usually have, like, these big barrels for, like, the distilling process. At least that's what I remember. It's like these big barrels back of the day. So, fermentation. That's the key word you gotta look out for. It's how you make your own wine. And beer, too. Anyway.
We're here. I can tell by the name on the sign. Now, don't embarrass me, I didn't bring my ID. Fiddle-TD, look at all these bottles. So many options. Ooh, a cheeky $200 bottle. And here, oh, a $20 bottle. Now, I bet this $200 bottle tastes way better, right?
Let me guess.
Like
no?
it's got to be 10 times better than this one. That's just basic math. Go on, though. You choose one. Oh, no.
Both.
Well, it was supposed to be a trick question, but they both taste pretty similar, right? There's not some threshold that you get to where it gets more expensive, and then it tastes better, and then more expensive again, and it tastes even better, until it gets so expensive and so incredible that it's like nothing you've ever had before. Break through the conditioning. This is just old grape juice.
Pretty much.
Now, if you're a little bi-curious about a more expensive bottle, sure, why not?
Gold letters grace the label, hand engraved by goldsmiths. Famed wine critics described the taste as mind-boggling.
But realistically, after about $60, the flavor doesn't get much better. In fact, it plateaus out and it can even go down. The best quality to price ratio is all the way over here, much lower, about $20. That's how much you should spend on a bottle of wine. Now, some people will say
that I'm putting my heart and soul into this thing. I'm making a form of art. How much is that worth? How much is art worth?
about $20. Ah, but what about the Vintage?
The vintage.
Well, look at this.
Mont
A
Blanc.
couple of cromulent slender necks. And they're the same price as well. But this one is from 2019, and this one is from 2022. Well, surely the older one is the better one, right? No. Many people think that the wine aging goes like this, and the flavor just
let me
keeps
guess,
getting
no.
better over time. Wrong, wrong, wrong. The wine at the store has already been aged at the winery. I don't need to be more aged by sitting on this shelf and just collecting dust, or spending years at the back of your pantry at home. If I'm for sale, I'm ready to be consumed. I'm ready to have your hot lips wrapped around me.
Ew.
In fact, the general rule goes a corked bottle should be drunk within 5 years, and a capped bottle within 1 year.
So
Come,
cork
come,
for 5,
there's more.
cap for 5.
Let's pretend
Okay.
I am a waiter at a restaurant. You happen to be wearing a shirt, and so I have mistaken you as a paying customer. As a waiter, the first thing I will press you about will be food pairings. White wine with fish? A Merlot with pork? Well, kid, I'm gonna have to pair this truth nugget with something you don't want to hear.
That's not
The food pairing doesn't really matter. It's all completely subjective. It's cuisine by horoscope. It's food astrology. Pay no attention to the sommeliers in the comment section.
Don't worry. Good.
They are bullshitting to upsell.
Get the more expensive one. It goes better with the spaghetti.
Or they are a Pisces and you shouldn't trust their opinion anyway. Something else to expect at a restaurant? Expect to get ripped off by the markup. Most restaurants add a 250 to 300% markup on their wine.
Triple the
And
price?
the cheaper the bottle, the higher the proportional markup tends to be. So a $20 bottle will turn into an $80 bottle, but a $100 bottle may only rise to $150. Most people get the second cheapest bottle on the menu, regardless of the pairing, and that'll do just fine. And that's it. No more tips. Unless you want to leave me one. Oh? Actually, you know what? I got a fucking tip for you, mate. Ad time.
Here we go.
I bet you're wondering how I got this cog in my knee.
Economy. Okay.
That's
Really?
because I became the face of Incogni, the service that helps you be forgotten on the internet. I used to be a humble florist. One day we received a shipment of forget-me-nots. But inexplicably I fell in and ate a bunch of them. I forgot everything that day. My address, my web browsing habits, where I worked, what my child's face looked like. I was supposed to pick him up from daycare, so that was kind of embarrassing. I just picked one of the kids that kind of looks like me.
Oui, monsieur.
Close enough. Have you ever signed up for some dodgy website? Have you ever dodged up for a legitimate website and they sell all your details onto a dodgy website? That's where I come in. Incogni man. And a nonna boy.
Je ne parle anglais pas.
There are data miners out there, data collectors, creating big servers all around the world. They take your name, your address, and your IP, and together they make a big profile, and that lives forever. I am here to send them annoying legal notices to tell them to
Knock
fuck
it
off. Take Steve off your database. European law this, American law that. Go to incogni.com/internethistorian to get 60% off an annual plan. The cog signal. I swoop into the data centers. Legal notice. Tangle up their processes with admin. Who are you? I don't know. Oh, wait a minute.
You.
Inganokni Nam. Go to
Incogni
incogni.com/internethistorian. Ah, Incogni Man. Remember me?
What, VPN?
Yes. No.
No.
Who's the kid?
Je suis très affamé, monsieur, s'il vous plaît.
Whoa, that's a good deal. And over.
And we're back.
Welcome to the
Hello.
Wine Underground.
AKA the cell.
We have our meetings here because it stays at a very pleasant temperature. You know, us wine masons, we control everything. We are few, but many. That doesn't make sense. Look at the back of this bottle. See the No Fat Chicks logo?
Oh yeah, don't
We
drink while
put
pregnant.
that there. It is the symbol of our organization. We have a dirty finger
Yikes.
in every glass of government and corporation stuff.
Please don't.
If you cross us, oops,
You're dead.
perhaps you'll have a little accident. Last year, little upstart tried to make wine actually taste good. You know, like
Crushed
how
grape.
grape soda does. Cut him up so good he had to get stitches. We caught one reporter trying to dig around into our operations. We all know how that one ended. With an airstrike. All right, my little juice box. I'm going to let you in on a secret. Why is champagne called champagne? Well, I'll tell you. It all began in 1668. In the Abbey of St. Peter in northeast France, there's something spooky going on. It's springtime, and in the cellar where they keep all the wine, bottles would suddenly, unexpectedly, explode. Now, this was especially common during morning mass. Ho ho, that's a bad omen. Sometimes the explosions would cause little chain reactions, and bottle after bottle would break down the line, ruining the majority of the crop. The peasants were frightened and also parched.
Sacre Bleu, lay wine. What is happening?
The monks would refer to this as the devil's wine.
Le wine is cursed.
Le God, he must be anger at us. We need a hero.
In walks Don.
Oh boy. I sometimes wonder if, like, it was just like the pressure. Like, remember, I think Chardonnay is kind of more of a bubbly wine, you know, as Sarah would say, a little bit of the bubbly. Sorry, I had to go there. But yeah, I think you can see what's going on there. You know, the pressure builds up, and well, eventually. Anyway.
Perignon. He
Don.
is just the man for the job. A Benedictine monk at the abbey. He's got a new role, the cellar master. And it's his mission to find out what the hell is going on here. So Don starts looking at all the bottles. And what he figures out pretty quickly is that the wine itself is releasing gas. The gas builds up pressure and...
See?
Why that is happening, he doesn't know. But it's his job to stop it. So he gets to work, trying all sorts of things to stop his mortal enemy.
The bubbles.
The bubbles. In the first year, he tried insisting that only the youngest grapes be picked.
Let me guess.
Perhaps this will stop your bubbles.
Let me guess. No.
And it didn't.
Womp womp.
The next year, he changed up how the grapes were pressed.
Push harder. We'll squeeze out the bubbles.
No.
Son of a bitch. He tried picking the grapes very early in the morning and no other time. Nope. And on and on. The bubbles would win the battle every year. For 8 long years, he tried all sorts of different things,
Not that. Oops.
and no strategy worked. No, the bubbles.
The bubbles.
Eventually, he was at the point of almost giving up. Until one day, hey, what if the wine is still fermenting? So he takes a couple of the bottles and he opens them and, it is. We ferment the wine. Once it's done, it goes into the bottle. How does it then start fermenting again? How is that possible? And here the mystery was solved.
Ooh, they figured it out.
So it turns out in North France they have very fast changing seasons. And owing to that, the yeast doesn't actually get time to do its job.
Oh, so
Instead,
it
it would get cold very quickly in the winter and all the yeast would go dormant. Then the winemakers would go, oh brilliant, fermentation slowed down, it must be done. They would then bottle it and they would store it. But once summer came back around, the process would spring back to life and carbon dioxide would build up and... Okay, he thinks, I cannot change the climate. Perhaps I shall not win the war against the bubbles. Now, the bubbles are his enemy and he has another enemy. The English. Therefore, the enemy of his enemy or something.
The enemy of my enemy.
Anyway, he starts talking to the English and he goes, hey, how do you guys stop your bottles from exploding? And the British go,
You what, mate? Core! We'll peep at how thin the bloody glass be in it. Thin glass is the problem. Thank you for using this text-to-speech preview. For a paid version, please go to...
See, the English have created new coal-fired bottles with much thicker glass. Then they put a cork in the top, and it allows them to make very foamy beer. That's right. He could just use thicker bottles, and he won't have to worry about stopping the bubbles at all. So Dom goes running back to France. He's panting, he's sweating, and there's bits of brie on his shirt. He's going, better bottles, better bottles. Everyone's confused and terrified, but they give it a shot. And there it was. The people of France loved it.
I love this new style.
Even the French royals were enjoying new wine, TM. He even started adding extra yeast and sugar to really get the bubbles going. And so Dom Perignon had created what we call today champagne. Now, there's a 19th century marketing campaign that says the moment he uncorked his champagne for the first time, he tried it and said, come quickly, come quickly, I am tasting the stars. But that's actually a myth. He never really said that. But there's still a problem. And this one, Dom cannot fix. The pulp. If you bottle wine while it's still fermenting, so that you can keep the bubbles in, you're also trapping in a bunch of dead yeast and debris and gross particles too. Also, it's all cloudy. No, we want it clear. We want it crystal looking. How will we ever solve this problem? Dom dies.
Before he can solve it. Give it a year.
1805. In walks Madame Clicquot. She's just the man for the job.
I'm also French. I have come to remove all the little beets. I will clench my teeth together and go pitu back into the bottle.
Now, Madame Clicquot was a very shrewd lady. Her husband died when she was in her early 20s.
My husband is dead. Lol.
And part of the estate she was bequeathed included a winery. She immediately got to work, making it into a successful business.
I shall invent a process called lay riddling.
Here's what you do, right? You put these bottles on a rack at a 35-degree angle with the top facing down. Every 2 days, she would give the bottle a little shake and slightly increase the angle. After 8 to 10 weeks, all of the sediment would come to rest in the neck of the bottle. All right, quick tangent. Did you know that when you increase the salt concentration in water, you can drop its temperature down much lower without it freezing? Tangent over. So she takes this sub-zero salt water and dips the neck of the bottle in there, then lets it sit until the neck freezes. Now you have a sort of frozen cork filled with all of the gross pulp, and then you simply pop off the top. And the whole thing goes shooting out as a fun prank for your friends and family.
Yikes.
Then they add in a little more extra base wine and sugar and leave it to age. And with that, Clicquot has just created a clear, sparkling wine. And that is Ridley. And Madame Clicquot is...
the Riddler. I had to go there.
So Dom Perignon and Madame Clicquot are both credited as the godfather and godmother of champagne. Today, the Dom and Clique brands are owned by LVMH, the same parent company that owns Louis Vuitton, Tag Heuer, Tiffany & Co., Hennessy. Actually, pretty much every luxury brand. But Why is it called champagne? Well, that's because it comes from the Champagne region, you dummy. And anything else with bubbles is just sparkling wine.
Makes sense. Honestly, I could see that. I gotta say, just phrasing it over. Good call, madam. Kind of crazy that apparently Nolan Cabernet, they're owned by the same company. It's pretty crazy. Then again, really shows you how diverse foods can be. Sometimes not at all. Anyway, next.
Oh, it's you.
Hello.
I was just looking out over the sunset. You know how it is. Thinking about stuff that happened in the past.
I mean, you are the
I
historian.
remember it all too well. It was literally 1984.
Hello, Gotham.
I was walking home with my parents from the opera.
Come on, keep up. We're nearly there.
Hey, let's take a little shortcut, they said.
We can cut through here.
We were walking down a well-lit alleyway. It was nothing but quaint restaurants and bistros. Then suddenly, a man holding a bottle of Shiraz came out of nowhere. "Just a tipple," he said. I was terrified. I knew nothing about wine. "Go on," he said. My hands were shaking, knees weak, arms heavy. Complex aroma, wouldn't you say? Very good tannins. Oh, really? Yep. What's a tannin? I don't know. My parents died from embarrassment right there on the spot.
Ouch.
I'm sorry, Daddy.
Just a tipple. It's too late for me, but I don't want the same thing to happen to you. That's why we have to learn about how to serve wine.
That's a tangent, if I ever heard one.
So you've bought a bottle of wine to show your friends and family how successful and sophisticated you are. Did you know that Da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa?
We know.
So let's go through how to serve the big three. White, red, and champagne.
Right.
Let's say you've bought champagne.
Uh-oh.
That bottle goes in the fridge. Champagne is served cold always. To open, peel off the foil and do not aim it at your face.
Totally.
Then twist off the metal thing. If you want people to think you're fancy, use the proper word, muselet.
Muselet.
It helps to contain the pressure. Again, don't aim this thing at your face.
Don't.
It's really worth repeating. The PSI inside a champagne bottle is 70 to 90. That puts it in the same league as a nail gun. So the cork comes out at about 50 miles an hour. And if you're in a house, you want to hold onto it very firmly with your hand. If you're Bezos, or you just won the Grand Prix, fling it over some ladies. But if you want to be really fancy, you can use a sword. This has been a tradition for a couple hundred years, popularized by Napoleon. After each victory, the army would use their sabers to crack one open for the boys. But the sword's just ceremonial. You can use pretty much any blunt object to knock off the top. A phone, a shoe, this fish head. If it's cold, it shouldn't fizz over too much, but you might want to have someone on the side with a ready glass. The glass type should either be a tulip or a flute. Although, if you've seen The Great Gatsby, you may notice that they use these. Up until the mid-1900s, people used coupes. That's because, back in the day, excessive effervescence wasn't very cool. So these cups helped actually dispel the bubbles faster. In fact, sometimes they'd even use a small whisk or a fork to dissipate all the bubbles.
Damn.
Now, there's actually an old myth that the shape and size of the coupe was molded from one of Marie Antoinette's buboes.
Let me guess.
But it's probably not true. Eventually, bubbles became a fancy feature, so the flute was adopted. They can be made from glass, but preferably they're made from crystal, so that they shimmer as much as possible. And the best flutes would also feature a small rough spot right there at the center of the glass at the bottom to create a sort of tornado of bubbles. Anyway, as you pour, tilt sideways so it isn't all head, and don't pour more than 2/3 full. Done.
See?
White wine.
Now for the white.
White wine is best served chilled too. 10 to 15 degrees though, not fridge cold. Use a small glass bowl and pour to about half full. And when you drink, do a little sniff test and, aerate it a bit. Then hold it down low on the stem so your hands don't heat up the liquid. If it's not to your taste, cut it with 50% Sprite and add a few ice cubes. Done. Reds.
There you go.
Red wine is not chilled. It is served at room temperature. When you first open it, you're supposed to let it sit for a while to oxidize. That gives it more flavor. Although if you don't want to wait, you can just pour it into a decanter. That does the same thing.
Cool.
To drink from, we want a big bowl on a stick, so you get a full face of the aromas of the great blood. When you pour the thing, fill it about 1/3 full. That's pretty much it. However, when it comes to wine snobbery, red wine snobbery is at the top of the Maslow hierarchy.
Crushed white rock. It's like almost like a rock quarry.
Oh my god, shut up. And there's a taste testing thing that people do, and they all go a bit mental, and it's kind of gross, and it looks dumb. But if you think you're ready for the ultimate test, ready to take the one-chip challenge of enology, then here's how you do it. When the waiter comes over, insist on taking a teensy sample. Inspect for color, clarity, and legs. Legs refers to how viscous the wine is. Smell it. Smells like a red wine. Swirl it around on the table, making a loud scratching noise, so that everyone knows you're a connoisseur.
Swirling the wine glass is almost like turning up the volume on the stereo.
When you taste it, you're supposed to get it over every part of your mouth, so that when you brush your teeth later, it's awful. Then take in big sips of air. This is where you comment on the texture and taste. Complex notes! You yell across the room. Now this is the best part. You can just make shit up about vanilla smatterings or citrusy undercurrents. I swear, there's a hint of blueberry. It's one of those things that's kinda true, but subjective enough that no one can really refute you. So make a big show of it.
There is a little bit of an earthiness, almost a graphite clay note to this.
It's a little bit meaty, it's a little bit sort of rustic.
There are definitely hints here of Monster Ultra sugar-free. If this is a taste test and you're sampling dozens of wines, you want to spit out the sample into this gross bucket so you don't get too drunk. Do not ask the waiter if you can drink from the bucket. It's the waiter's privilege and he's very protective of
Please
it.
don't.
And that is how to serve wine.
Just don't go snooping.
Okay, that's a lot of shitting on wine people.
You think?
And we shouldn't get bullied.
But let me do a quick 180. Because overall, wine is good. And a little wine snobbery can be good also. Being
don't give me
into
a
wine
Karen, okay?
is one of the great dad hobbies. One day you will have a model train set in your basement, complete with a little walking path and the grass just right. The best part about this hobby is building the thing, getting it just perfect, and then making people sit there while you explain the little trains in excruciating detail of how they work. Now, the fun of Warhammer, that's when you save up for the little Space Marine man, you take him out of the packet, you put on a podcast with some Warhammer in the background.
Of all the Primarchs, Horus is the best kisser.
And you slowly paint it yourself. And then you argue with your mates later about why the Necrophiles are the best race.
Oh boy.
There are people that spend like tens of thousands of dollars on coffee machines and equipment. And then it takes like an hour to make a coffee, and it's like only 5% better, maybe, than the ones you get at the cafe. Now, I could be Mr. Killjoy and come in and go, what's the point of that? Why not just buy it from the cafe? Why not just get a pre-painted Space Marine? Why not have someone else just install the train set? But then there's no ceremony, there's no fun, there's no hobby. Wine is very similar. They're getting a little bit too obsessive about the thing and being like,
some lemon zest as well, lemon pith. Super tangy.
Is the purpose of wine. It's the fun of wine, which is why wine is better than just some old grape juice. Fair. And you fucking wine loser snobs, you know what? You're all
You do you. It's definitely a you do you moment.
And that's about it. There's just one last thing left. The practical. Come on, my little nouveau biche. I booked out a whole restaurant.
Cool.
They serve some of the best blue whale caviar here. All right, you did it. You sat through the whole video without crying. I think this calls for a toast. Steady now. Whoop.
Uh-oh. I wasn't feeling that was gonna...
Uh-oh.
That's on you. I didn't do it. So that's
I can't
number
believe
2.
you killed again.
That was
But
you.
it's okay. I feel like we're becoming close friends who can keep secrets and stuff. And because we're such close friends, I'm going to keep teaching you things. That's right. You're going to be just like me.
Yikes.
I just cannot tell which of this is blood and which wine. What?
Yeah. Yeah? One sec. Yeah, sorry about that. So, there you go. Wine. All done. So, I'll see you guys for the incognito style. I'm not sure when that's coming out, but I'll keep an eye out. Till then, thanks for watching, everybody. See you for the next one.